Hi, my name is Christopher Drost and welcome back to my channel. The most curious thing happened when I was scripting for this video. It accidentally turned into a mini-series. The script that I made for the video on the trans community was so long that I did not even attempt to film it in one go because it was 5 pages long. To give you an idea, my usual scripts are about 2 pages long, so yeah, I had to break that up for you. As you may or may not have noticed, I'm posting this video on Friday. That's because I had a technical failure. My tripod sort of broke and I had to glue it back together, which means I'm not filming with a ring light today because I have to wait for parts for that to be fixed. So until I have those parts, I'm sorry about that. And on a more happy and personal note, this week I finally got my official diagnosis, which means I have been referred for hormones. So I hope to start hormones soon. As you may have noticed when you clicked on the title, it's about the trans community today. Let's just start off with some old-fashioned disclaimers. First of all, I am more active in the trans-masculine part of the community, so my views on the community may be a little bit tainted by that. Yeah, there's no way around that. Disclaimer number 2 is that I will be focusing on the online trans community, and this is mostly because your local communities may be vastly different, also with cultural differences and whatnot, so I cannot really help you with that. And the third disclaimer is that for all the videos that I make on the trans community, I am going to keep my own opinion out of it because I want to give you an unbiased view of the community and my opinion doesn't help you with that. So if you're interested in my opinion, let me know in the comments and I can do a separate video on that later. Let's start off with why it's important for a writer to know the dynamics in the online trans community when you are writing a transgender character. Well, the first reason is research. There is a lot of material out there, and if you have absolutely no idea what you're getting into, that can be really hard to navigate. And you may also, if you start researching, you may get very one-sided information if you dive in just one side of the community. As I will be covering in later videos, there are different philosophies and views and what it even means to be transgender out there, and it's important that as a writer you are aware of it, and it is also very useful to know where your character stands on these issues because it will also influence the character, it will influence what type of friends they have and how they move around in the trans community in general. And especially if you're writing contemporary, you cannot write a trans character that is not in some way associated with the online trans community. Today I want to talk about the first major divide within the trans community, and that is whether trans is an umbrella term or not. There's 4 letters in the original LGBT, which covers 3 major sexualities, but there is only 1 letter for all the gender identities you can get. So, is transgender an umbrella term or not? Basically, everybody wants to be recognized under the T, which stands for trans. So let's talk a little bit more about those identities, because there are a lot of them and quite honestly, there is more each and every day. Let's start with the first and the most obvious ones that are obviously under the trans umbrella, which are the trans men and the trans woman. I've talked about gender as a spectrum before, and when I'm talking about trans men and trans women, I mean the binary trans men and binary trans women. These are the people that are on the opposite sides of the spectrum, so they identify completely as male or female. That leads me to the next category, which are the trans people that are transitioning, but they do not identify as male or female, they feel more like they're in between. These are non-binary transgender people. Again, there is 2 sides of this. There's the trans-masculine people and there is the trans-feminine people. But note that I did not say trans men and trans women because they identify as non-binary. That brings us to, again, the next category, which are the non-binary people. These are people that do not identify with their sex assigned at birth. They do not identify as either a man or a woman, but they choose not to transition. And sometimes you also see that they have very different transition paths if they do choose to transition. And I'm going to link a video down below from Ash Hardell, who took a very non-typical path of transition. Another way you can identify is as a gender fluid person. These people do feel more masculine or more feminine, but it can vary from time to time and even day to day as far as I understand it. I'm not an expert on this, so if you do have a gender fluid character in your story, please do the research well, because I cannot speak for that part of the community. So far we have remained on the spectrum from men to women and people that vary or are like somewhere in between. But you don't have to be on this specific spectrum. There is also agender people. As my understanding of agender people goes, they do not identify as a man, a woman, or anywhere on the spectrum. So this is a spectrum, and this is where agender people are. The last category that I want to touch upon is other genders than male or female or agender. And those, I am going to do a whole different video on those, because you can talk about those for a really long time. Please note that I did not include intersex people, crossdressers, and gender non-conforming people. I have a reason for this, just hold on a second. Of course, intersex people in the extended version of LGBT, which I can never remember, they have their own letter indicating that they are a different category. And crossdressers and gender non-conforming people usually identify either as non-binary or as cis, so therefore I don't include them separately. And that brings us to the last part of this video. Is transgender an umbrella term? Let's first look at where the word trans comes from. Trans is a prefix, a Latin prefix that means beyond, across, or on the far side. So originally the term suggests that you have to cross over from one side to another in order to be trans. Therefore you need to transition. If you look at it this way, trans should not be an umbrella term, simply because the word itself does not accommodate for it to be an umbrella term. That being said, words change meaning all the time. So why can't it be an umbrella term? So in conclusion, it really depends on how you view the word and whether you think the meaning has evolved yet or not. This is a lot of controversy in the trans community, because some people don't believe that trans should be an umbrella term and should be specifically for people who are transgender, which is also where the T originally stands for, while others are more inclusive and want to include more and different genders. One possible solution would be to just pick another word starting with a T that can serve as an umbrella term. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Now, that being said, let's move on to the question of the day. What do you think about trans being an umbrella term? Do you think it should be, or should it not be? Or maybe you're somewhere in between. Let me know in the comment section down below. Okay, so this is the first video. I'm not entirely sure yet how many videos there are going to be in this mini-series, because I'm pretty sure that if I start scripting again it might get longer, so I'll let you know as I go along. I do know this though, in the next video I want to talk about the second major divide in the trans community, which is, do you need gender dysphoria in order to be trans? That's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and while you're down there you can subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on, well, Thursdays.
That's going into the bloopers.